Hey, what's up guys? Let me just say at the outset of this video that if you are interested in drums and not photography or videography in any form, this is probably not the video for you. I'm going to be talking about videography, some of my gear. But if you are a videographer, how many times can I say that? If you're a videographer, photographer, or you want to learn how to record drums, or you're interested in production value, then you may enjoy this video. But I have a question for you guys, and that question is, what camera should I get next? And then after that, I'm just going to run through the gear that I currently have in case you're interested in just knowing what I do film with and what I record with currently. So let me just give you kind of a history and a rundown of the gear that I use to make my drum videos. So first camera that I bought that I still have that I love is the Canon Rebel T3i. So this thing is like way outdated at this point, right? But it's a great camera. I'm not going to go through the specs. I'm just going to go through the things that are usable to me. The biggest drawback of this camera, the main drawback of this camera, the only drawback of why I really have moved on was because it does not have autofocus in video. So this is like the last, I think, generation before Canon added autofocus in video. So anyways, I've got this guy. I use it for a lot of my just locked off shots, side shots, because I can focus with a remote. So I can set this up on a tripod or something, focus with a remote, and then record. So I love this camera. That's what I started with. The camera that I'm using now for 99% of all my vlogging is a Canon G7X Mark II. So I love this camera. It's great for a couple of reasons. One, it's got a great flip screen here, and it's a run and gun. So focusing is great. It does not have the dual pixel AF, but focusing is great. It's f1.8, so it's really great in low light. It does really great. So a lot of my videos are done under LED lights or really dark before service or something. So this performs actually extremely well in that environment. And it does 60 frames a second, so I can get some slow-mo. But the biggest advantage of this is just run and gun. It's right in my pocket. It's easy to use. You know, I can get it out really quickly, shoot with it, vlog with it. Video looks great. The biggest drawbacks of this camera, the reasons why I'm looking at something else. The number one drawback is it does not have a place to plug in external audio. So it really hasn't been that much of an issue as far as keeping me from getting usable footage, because the mic does pretty good, especially if I'm, I guess, vlogging. Kind of the flip screen here almost kind of isolates other background noise. So the internal mic volume is pretty adequate. If you go watch any of my vlogs, that's pretty much what I'm using recently. But it's not necessarily that it's a drawback, but it's kind of hindering my production value from being higher and better. So it's one thing I'd like to add, that something better. The second thing is lens. It doesn't have interchangeable lenses, so it just limits my options. Again, this lens is great. It does a good job. I get a nice, again, it's f1.8, so I get a nice blur in the background, good shallow depth of field. And then the third thing, and this is kind of just like a wish list item, and so this is kind of where my biggest question comes in, is I want 120 frames per second. So I enjoy vlogs. I watch a lot of different vlogs, and that really super smooth B-roll is always 120 frames a second. So I don't really know of anybody kind of doing what I'm doing as far as like the church drum vlogging kind of, live videos plus like tips and stuff. So but I want to kind of bring the production value up, and so I think it'd be really cool to have that, especially in something as dynamic as a drum set. Having 120 frames a second would be super cool to have. So I'm looking to make a change, or just to add another camera to my repertoire here. So I want to ask you guys, what camera should I get? The camera I'm looking at, I'm looking at a couple, but one that's kind of stuck out to me some is the Sony A7 III. So the biggest reason really is simply 120 frames per second. I mean, it does 120, and I can get an adapter, to go to my Canon lenses. So the Canon lenses that I have, I love Canon. I'm kind of a loyalist, so I'm actually shooting right now on a C100 Mark I with my super cheap 50mm lens, like my $120 nifty 50, but it just works good like for the setting of where I'm at. I wanted to get a little bit of shallow depth of field, and again, it's f1.8 as well. So, but I've got a lot of times I use this 24mm, and then we have at the church, we have this amazing lens, just a super great all around Canon EF 24-105L, IS, USM. It's got all that great stuff in it. So this is our kind of church lens that we've got for the C100. So this is an incredible camera. So I'm kind of invested into the Canon lens family a little bit. And, you know, I like Canon lenses. I like Canon color science. Because for me, although I do like production value, like I enjoy all of the things, color grading and, you know, dynamic range and understanding all those things. At the end of the day, I want my workflow to be as fast as possible. So, like, again, my vlogging camera is the, you know, G7X. So I'm not even shooting in C-Log. I don't know if it has C-Log. I'm literally just shooting in auto mode. I'm not, you know, there's no external audio. You know, I do some color grading, I use some LUTs and different stuff. But it doesn't have, you know, dual pixel AF. So like all this stuff this camera doesn't have. So this camera does the job for me. It does good. It's not that it's lacking in any sense. I just want things to be better. So if that makes sense, it's not that it's like this is missing something. It's just I want to add production value. So Sony A7 III, I guess the third Mark III, and using like a Metabones adapter or something so I can use my Canon lenses, continuing the Canon family. The other ones I've been looking at, I think it's the 5D Mark IV, but it doesn't have 120 frames a second, I don't think. So this is my biggest question for you guys. What camera should I get? Where should I go? I like the Canon lenses. I'm okay with using adapter. I'm okay with switching, I guess, if there's like a camera that's perfect. Is there a better camera than the Sony A7 III? Specifically for getting that 120 frames a second B-roll kind of stuff. You know, I'm doing a lot of vlogging, so something close, being able to plug my microphone in. Is 120 frames a second really a deal breaker? You know, should I go for an 80D, you know, or which is not, you know, doesn't have 120 frames a second, but basically gives me the dual pixel AF. What do you guys think? I would love your input. Help me out. What camera should I get? Okay, so I'm going to do a quick rundown of what I use right now to record, even though I've kind of walked through some of it. But again, right now my main vlogging and recording camera is a Canon G7X Mark II. If you're a drummer first and a videographer or photographer or something second, I would highly recommend this camera for a couple of reasons. The biggest one being it's just so easy. You leave it on auto, you flip the screen up, you point and shoot, you vlog, boom, that's it. It's a done, no mess. I use this Manfrotto little tripod here that can extend, so you can hold it. You know, it's long enough to hold. You can connect it here, so like so. So then this is adequate for vlogging. I just point that out like that, and I can vlog. You know, these legs can go here. You can set it up on a table or set it up anywhere you want to. So again, this one is just quick, it's easy, it records great footage, it's got a great sensor in it, it's f1.8, so it does great in low light, it's got good shallow depth of field, so it's kind of like, in my opinion, a really great option for a point and shoot. The drawbacks, it does not have an external mic in ability, it doesn't have the ability to do external mic input. So for bang for the buck, just great point and shoot, I would highly recommend the Canon G7X. I love it. I use it. You know, if you like the value of some of the previous videos I've done, that's all on this camera. So, other equipment. Canon Rebel T3i. So this is outdated at this point. There's T4, T5, T6, T7, all this kind of stuff. But if you're looking to get into kind of upping your production value, pick up a T3i or even a T2i will give you great shots. It does not have autofocus in video, so you will have to focus your shot either with a remote or beforehand set up your shot and then do it. But again, a lot of my side snare shots are done with the T3i. I have this 24 millimeter pancake lens, Canon lens. It's like $150, and I have the 50 millimeter Nifty 50 that I'm shooting on right now. That's like $125. These are great lenses for the price. They're prime, so they don't zoom in. They do not have image stabilization. So again, this is for like set it on a tripod, leave it, record. But they're amazing lenses for the price. There's a great value. So I'm shooting right now on a Canon C100 Mark I. It's the church's camera. So that's what you're seeing there. This lens that I'm using is the church's Canon 24-105. This is definitely a step up. It's L glass. It's like $1,000, so this may not be as practical, but it's an incredible camera. Then GoPros. If you're a drummer, GoPros are pretty much your bread and butter. I'm using the Hero 5s. They got a Hero 6. I also use the Hero, like the original Hero. So you know, really any of the GoPros are good options, but I would recommend like the 5 and up if you really want to get 4K or 60 frames a second or anything like that. Other great cameras. This is a Zoom Q4. It has since been replaced by, I think it's called a Q4M, but they have a Q8. So what's great about this, it's got video plus good audio. So the Q8 has 2 XY microphones, like overhead mics, and then also has 2 XLR inputs. So you could really have a whole kit. So you set this up, boom, you have your XY microphones like overheads, then you have kick and snare. So you literally get the entire kit and video, like a one-stop shop for the Zoom Q4. So I don't use it as much because most of the time I have external audio from somewhere else. Okay, audio recording, Zoom H4n. Again, this has also been replaced with the H4n Pro. So this is great. It's got 2 microphones, XY mics here, and then 2 inputs so you can do XLR. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll point this at the kit, and then I'll run a splitter off of my intermix. So I have a little headphone splitter here. So this guy out of my Aviom, I'll run you know, one of these to my headphones and the other one into the H4n. So then I've got like, you know, overheads with the kit, and then I've also got my in-ear mix going in here. So that's another option for audio with that. For any drone stuff, which I don't do a lot of, but I have the Spark. So there's tons of newer stuff out there, but I mean, this does what I need to do. So one common theme that you see here, pretty much all my gear is outdated at this point. Everything has got a newer, better option. But the great thing about that is, you know, production value is so high at this point that you can get used or previous generation stuff and still have great production value, especially if production is kind of the second, you know, thing in line to your craft, which is drumming, drums, all that kind of stuff. Oh, the other thing I have here, this is a Turns Pro. So this is a cool little like time-lapse motor. So basically you can set this to put a camera on here and set it to turn like super slow over like an hour or 2 hours. So you have this really cool moving time lapse. It's like $100, but again, production value goes up. And then I've got this little camera. This is a little microphone. This is a Movo shotgun mic that you mount on a camera. I don't use it because again, I shoot on the G7X Mark II and has no audio inputs. But this thing is great. You can look up other reviews on YouTube, but it's like $40, so extremely economical for something that gives you a great value. So that's really all the gear that I use on a regular basis to create vlogs and drum videos. But going back to my original question, I'm trying to take the next step in my production. I want 120 frames a second. 4K is not really a big deal because I'm producing in 1080. I don't want to edit in 4K. 1080 is still good enough for me. So what do you guys think? Is 120 frames a second really a deal breaker? You know, should I go for an 80D, you know, or which is not, you know, doesn't have 120 frames a second, but basically gives me the dual pixel AF, all that great stuff. So what do you guys think? What camera do I need to get? What do I need next?